There's a lot of misinformation going around that dictates which of the two primary weapons in Valorant most players opt to purchase whenever they have sufficient funds. In this video, I'll be showing you guys all the facts about the weapons and their differences so you can figure out without a doubt which weapon you should buy in which situation. I'm Shakes, and this is the Vandal versus the Phantom. So first things first, the damage numbers. Easily one of the most important stats of the weapons, and in terms of sheer damage, the Vandal outclasses the Phantom at nearly every range. And for these weapons, the range matters, well, at least in the Phantom's case. For the Vandal, the weapon will do 33 damage to the legs, 39 damage to the body, and 156 damage to the head at all ranges. Yes, no matter the range you fire at the enemy from, there is zero falloff with the Vandal, which not only obviously makes it do consistent damage, but also makes it feel more consistent as a weapon, as it will always take the same number of bullets to kill the enemy. Speaking of which, assuming your opponent has bought full armor as they often tend to, it'll take 5 shots to kill shooting at the legs, 4 shots to kill shooting at the body, and 1 shot to kill shooting at the head. Combined with its not so fast fire rate, the time to kill isn't all that impressive if you don't immediately get a headshot, but we'll get more into that later. The Phantom, on the other hand, has 3 different distances from which it'll do different damage numbers, namely 0 to 15 meters, then 15 to 30 meters, and then 30 meters plus. Within the closest distance bracket, it will do the exact same numbers as the Vandal, namely 33 to the legs, 39 to the body, and 156 to the head. At the next distance bracket, it will do 30 damage to the legs, 35 to the body, and 140 to the head. In other words, outside of 15 meters, it will immediately lose its one-shot headshot potential to anyone who's bought full body armor, which we will get into later. For the final distance bracket, it will do 26 to the legs, 31 to the body, and 124 to the head, being just 1 hit point off not being able to one-tap an enemy with light armor. We'll get more into what these headshot numbers mean later in the video, but for now, let's talk about the fire rate. The Vandal fires at 9.25 rounds per second normally, and then fires at 8.32 rounds per second when zoomed in. The Phantom fires at 11 rounds per second normally, and then fires at 9.9 rounds per second while zoomed in. From this, you can see that the Phantom in both scenarios can fire almost 2 extra bullets per second, which is quite a big jump up from the Vandal. For simplicity's sake, when calculating things like the time to kill, we're going to assume that you always aren't scoped, as staying unzoomed is how the majority of players play, and is, if you couldn't already tell, generally a better idea as you do fire faster. Now, you might have come to the conclusion that this makes the time to kill faster, assuming you don't get a headshot within 15 meters for the Phantom, which it is because of the faster fire rate, but then once we get to the other distance brackets, it gets a little bit more tricky. For this bit, we're going to assume that you're hitting all your shots on the body, as hitting headshots will instantly 1 shot for the Vandal and 1 to 2 shot for the Phantom. Again, we'll get to this bit with the headshots later, but as far as body shot time to kill goes, from 15 to 30 meters, the Vandal begins winning, as it will only take 4 bullets to kill, instead of the 5 from the Phantom, which, despite the Phantom's faster fire rate, will make the Vandal kill faster. And then afterwards, past 30 meters, the Vandal will stay having faster time to kill, as it will always take 4 bullets, while the Phantom's damage falls off and requires 5 after just 15 meters. In summary, within 15 meters, the Phantom has a faster time to kill for body shots, while outside of 15 meters, the Vandal reigns supreme. But that isn't all there is to the conversation. Despite the Phantom being in many ways just as good as the Vandal, it seems that in most matches of Valorant, most people purchase the Vandal way more than they do the Phantom. Personally, I think this has a lot to do with people coming from Counter-Strike and the knowledge from that game that the Vandal counterpart, which is the AK-47, is always something you should pick up above the Phantom counterpart, which is the M4A4. In Counter-Strike, the M4 has a faster fire rate than the AK, similar to the scenario within Valorant, but in CS, the AK can one-shot headshot from all ranges, while on opponents who have bought Kevlar and Helmet, the M4 cannot one-shot headshot from any range, therefore making it inferior to the AK. The similarities between the guns from CS and Valorant are undeniable, and because of this, I think the bias of the AK over the M4 bleeds into the choices players make in this game. But there is a definite difference between the Phantom and the M4, which is that the Phantom actually can headshot armored opponents, just not from far range. Because of this, many of Valorant's best high-level and professional players use the Vandal and the Phantom equally as much, and make their decisions primarily based off of which map and which situation they're in, which leads us to how you're supposed to decide which of the primaries you should pick up for peak performance. So, to keep it simple, the rule of thumb that a lot of higher-level players consider is that generally the Phantom is better on defense, while the Vandal is better on offense. Now, this is vastly simplified, so let me explain why this idea is in place and introduce some of the exceptions to this rule. Anyway, the general reason the Phantom is better on defense is that while defending, you get to choose where you begin the engagements and where the actual conflict will occur. It's your choice if you want to hold closer or farther from the choke, so because this, for example, on Bind, you can hold close on mid A when defending, and if you do this, using a Phantom will be a better idea as it does the same damage as the Vandal at that range, but has a faster fire rate, so it'll be the better weapon. On defense, there are a ton of different areas where you can hold from, which are within the distance bracket to allow you to get one-shot headshots, so because of this, picking up a Phantom and holding close is probably your best bet. On the other hand, when attacking, you're probably going to want to pick up the Vandal. The simple reason for doing this is because when you're pushing into an area, you obviously don't know where the enemy is, and can't really make the choice if the engagement will be far or close, and because of this, the Vandal will be better, as you will always be able to get a clean one-tap, assuming you get a headshot of course, no matter where the enemy is posted up. Also, being the attacker, you're going to have to make risky peeks more often as you're the ones pushing, not them, and having a weapon that will one-shot headshot 100% of the time is useful for when doing so. Of course, there's always going to be exceptions to these rules. For one, the entire map of Ascent is somewhat of an exception. What I mean by this is, despite the Phantom being generally better on defense and the Vandal on attack, most top-tier players buy the Vandal on both sides just because Ascent has such far sightlines, especially the one at mid, which makes the Vandal generally a better idea. However, if you are holding on one of the sites instead of watching mid and are holding close corners, you can still set up so the Phantom is more effective, but generally maps in areas with longer sightlines will favor the Vandal, while shorter sightlines and closer areas will favor the Phantom. Pretty much the best way to tell if you should buy the Phantom or the Vandal is understanding where you're going to be pushing, how far the sightlines and engagements will be, and if you're attacking or defending. Or, of course, you can just go with personal preference. Maybe you pick up the Vandal because the one-shot headshot potential makes a good practice for getting headshots, or maybe you pick up the Phantom because it'll help you spray transfer better with its faster fire rate. With whatever primary you choose in whichever situation you find yourself in, make sure to buy the other one every once in a while, just so you get practice with both, so you're never really stuck with the ability to only use one out of the two most prominent weapons in Valorant. And with that, it's been Shakes, and I bid you farewell and good luck in your future Valorant prospects. Good day. Now, go do something else. Maybe subscribe, read a book, write a play. I don't know what you do with your free time. Make something up, bro. I'm not your dad. So yeah, bye.